Playoffs? We'll talk about playoffs? You kidding me? Playoffs?
We're not urinating on the fire, man.
Pittsburgh Steelers fans, that's right. We're not urinating on the fire. We're talking playoffs. Welcome to another episode of the Scho Bro Show. This is Steel Curtain Network editor Dave Schofield coming at you Tuesday night, 9 o'clock, almost on the dot. Where else would you rather be, Steeler fans, especially since we're talking about postseason football? And with me, as always, except when he's not, is my big brother Rich, Big Bro Scho. How's it going tonight?
Let's just take a moment and breathe in.
Playoffs? Don't talk about playoffs. You kidding me? Playoffs?
Some playoffs. Oh, I'm telling you, I got to bring up
I'm going to cough. I'll tell you that much.
What's that?
If you make me laugh, I'm going to start coughing. So just warning you. Yeah, okay. Let's do it. Oh my goodness. Hey, I'm gonna bring it up because Kobe said it. Who would have thought?
Not me.
Yeah.
I have to be the first one to be honest and admit that while calling basketball games during the Colts game, at that point when the Steelers are losing that game, I'm like, well, don't have to worry about the playoffs.
Don't have to worry about the playoffs.
Because the Steelers would have to win out. And, Cincinnati, Seattle, Baltimore, two of those away. After the way the Steelers have been playing, not even a chance. And it's like, well, even if they won out, they'd have to probably get all this help. And here we are.
Yeah, because not only that, not only that. Okay. You say, here we are, you get all this help, all this other stuff. One game, that's really all the help that they had to get. But I kept saying, if they put themselves at a chance, once they lost those three games, you're like, well, they don't. If they're going to put themselves where they could make it, it would be because they have to show that they're worthy of making it to win those three games. Now, some people are like, oh, not a very good defense in Cincinnati. Well, Cincinnati's defense gives up a lot of yards. They don't give up a lot of points. Seattle, were they the defense they used to be? No, but they were. But they were a team that was both of those teams, Cincinnati, Seattle. Both teams were in the top 7 in their conference at the time of kickoff when they played the Steelers. And it was the Steelers that knocked them out.
Yes.
Both those two teams are not in the playoffs because the Steelers beat them.
That's right. They're not. You know where they're not?
Playoffs?
Where are they not?
Playoffs?
I was going to say, you got to get there.
Playoffs?
Yeah, they're not.
Let me get there. I played it like I played it. You're like, are you going to get there? I was like, I'd already played it, dude.
No. Well, sometimes it doesn't always come through right here for us. But, man, it's just, I have to tell you, no offense to you. I love doing the show with you on Tuesday night. So it had nothing to do with the company. But going live after that Titans-Jaguars game with Jeff and Brian might have been one of, if not the most fun podcast I've done in a long time.
I did not know you guys were going live, so I did not get to see it live, but I went back and watched it probably about 15 minutes after you wrapped up. I started it.
Yeah, and honestly, then you missed out on the party because we had close to 800 people in the live chat.
Yes.
It was fantastic. It was just the excitement of it. And it's funny because people are like, oh, well, what are the Steelers going to do and all that? Well, I mean, we're going to get into that. But like I said, if you looked at the Steelers' last 3 games, scratch that. Last 6 games, and you were to say, all right, Steelers can make the playoffs by going 3-3. You probably would have been like, yeah, they got some tough ones in Indy, Cincy at home. Those are probably 2 toss-ups there. At Seattle, that's always tough. Going to Baltimore, they might not have anything to play for, but even if they don't, They can't rest everybody. And the first two, those are nice. Maybe you mess up and lose one, but to lose the ones that they did, you're just like they really have no hope. But do you want to focus on the ones that they lost, or do you want to focus on the ones that they won in order to get there? Because that's last stretch of 6 games. I made the argument of, except for maybe the first 2 games of Arizona and New England, you could have flipped those 2. They basically got to a higher level of difficulty each of opponent, each one you went through. Now, people could say maybe Baltimore not as much because of who they played. Still, I still think that the players that played for Baltimore were just as good, if not better, than some of the other teams the Steelers have played along the way. But the likelihood of them winning those games were less and less with each opponent. And they went loss, 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 win, win, win. So the key is the Steelers have the second longest winning streak in the AFC right now. Second longest
Correct.
winning streak in the AFC, tied
3 games.
3 games, tied for the third longest winning streak in the NFL. The only teams that have won more games were the Rams, who've won 4, and the Buffalo Bills.
And the Buffalo Bills, who've won 5.
So that's what they had to do, and everything. But see, the thing with Buffalo, so that's Buffalo's last 3 games. It's been some of those games that they've managed to win, but it's not like they were really dominant with their win. Now, that's why I'm not counting the Cowboys game and the Chiefs game, but they just got the Chargers. I'm going to mess up the order of these, so I better click on it to see what they were. I know it was the Chargers and the Dolphins and the Patriots. Okay, I got the last 2 in the wrong order. The Chargers, then the Patriots, and then the Dolphins. Okay,
There you go.
They beat the Chargers. Now, granted, it was in LA, but remember, in LA, a lot of times is it really a big deal because they don't have a big home crowd. You get a lot of people for the other team there.
Yeah, because people don't drive up from San Diego to watch the Chargers.
Yeah. So
Sorry.
they beat the Chargers. They only beat the Chargers by 2. Then at home against New England, they only won that game by 1 score. Now you can say, well, the Steelers lost to New England. So yeah, that's true. But they didn't dominate in that game. And then that Miami game, I'll be honest with you, if they don't get that punt return, I don't think they win that game.
Yeah, I don't know that they win that game without that punt return. That was the turning point, was the punt return.
So, but the Steelers had wins like that early in the season, where it was like, yeah, they won that game, but did they really feel like they were the better team on the field? Did they feel like things kind of just lined up and they won it, and they're lucky that something didn't go the wrong way and they didn't? We've had that feeling with the Steelers. We had it some last year, had it during the season. Less and less that feeling over the last 3 weeks. It's just felt so different with these Steelers the last 3 weeks, hasn't it, Rich?
Yeah. And honestly, Dave, what it comes down to is just a little more faith in the offense.
Yes. I gave Steelers Freak some credit. This was, I think, in the Q&A when I was typing in there in the live chat. Gave him some credit because I'm like, he says it about you got to score points, you got to score points. I'm like, you don't have to score points all season in order to prove you can do it. But you know what? And you've got to, in the postseason, show that you can score points. If your defense can hold the opponent to 17 points and you can win by scoring, 20, 23, 24, that's fine. But you're playing some really good teams. You've got to be able to match them with points. It's something you have to do. That is something I did not have any confidence with the Steelers up until the last 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Now, getting into this game from Saturday, man, that was some pretty crummy weather.
Pretty crummy? Dude, that was downright miserable.
Yeah. I mean, that weather was not quite to the degree, but much closer to that than to some others of that 3-0 game that the Steelers had Wasn't that against the Dolphins?
Yes, it was.
Was that Ben's first start? Back. I'm trying to remember. I wish Brian would keep me straight.
I don't know, but it was that back after. Let's see, you'd had
It was 2004. I'm pretty sure
it was the Whippy had just finished the playoffs in the stadium, so they resodded the center part of the stadium, and then you had the rain on the brand new sod, and it didn't drain well. Yeah, that was a mess. And that's how it was raining in Baltimore.
Yeah, I'm not.
You didn't have the privilege that I had on Saturday.
Yeah.
I spent almost an hour and a half before the game, watching the pregame on WTAE out of Pittsburgh. So they had guys in studio. They had a reporter in the stadium on the sidelines. That poor gal, let me tell you. Mm-hmm. She had one of those kind of domey umbrellas to try to keep herself dry. But she was trying to hold it where it wasn't covering her face while she was trying to talk. And the wind's blowing and she's trying to hold on to it. So she's trying to hold the microphone and two hands on the umbrella. Oh, and you could see, even though she was trying to stay under that umbrella, she was absolutely soaked. Her poor hair, I could only hear her when it was done. I had to go on camera in my hair, and but you could see it was miserable. Not only that, but her and everybody else standing around, you can see their breath. Okay, so they kept covering the weather, and in Baltimore at the time, it was about 37 or 38 degrees in that rain. Mm-hmm. Heavy rain, right? I don't know what you're like, but to me, that's miserable. If it's going to be 38 degrees and raining real hard like that, I would rather it be 28 degrees and pounding down the snow.
Yeah. Because the snow doesn't stick to you like the rain does. Correct. I mean, if you're rolling around on the ground, it does somewhat. You get up, you can brush it off. I mean, the rain just coming down, it just soaks in. It's miserable. It's cold. That was pretty bad. It actually
can feel colder than the snow because all that rain and you're soaking wet, and it can chill you to the bone.
Mm-hmm.
So honestly, I was just looking at that weather and thinking, I'm looking much more forward to the Steelers being in Buffalo this weekend with the chance of it being, in the 20s and snowing than last weekend in that cold, miserable downpour.
Yeah. Well, and see, I was kind of bummed because I was looking forward to, there's something about watching a snow football game and feeling like you're in the snow. I actually had snow here. We didn't even get snow where I live last winter at all. We got not even an inch of snow. So we had 5 or 6 inches of snow on Saturday. And I'm like, I'm inside. I'm ready to go. I'm nice and warm and ready to watch this football game. And it's going to feel like a snow game because it's going to be snowing on the screen. No, it wasn't. It was worse. It would have been much better if it was snow. I think you're right. And I really hope it, would be, if there's any kind of I almost said precipitation on Sunday, I want it to be snow, not rain. But we can get into that a little bit more. But sometimes people are like, well, look at
Steeler Trek brings up a good point. Buffalo's going to be warmer than Kansas City. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kansas City, they're talking that game time temperatures are probably going to be single digits with high wind and wind chills well below zero.
Yeah. So either one was going to be bad weather. It really was. So my thing is, Kansas City, I feel, was a team that they're not on the rise, but it's also Kansas City. Sometimes they have a tendency to flip a switch. Buffalo, they've won 5 in a row, but the last few weeks you could see, let's just say, you could see the cracks in things and how they overcame them. So kudos to them for coming through and finding ways to win games. But it's not like you can't look at them and see, all right, they will turn the ball over. they could struggle with this. You know, there are a lot of different things going on there. But Rich, I said it's time for the Steelers to step up to the challenge. That's the name of the episode tonight. And that's because, you know, there's some things that are kind of stacked up against the Steelers with this. Thomas Riley asked me the question, isn't there a path where the Steelers could host the AFC Championship game? No, there is not. Not as the 7 seed. The path was Miami had to beat Buffalo on Sunday night to where the Steelers could be the 6 seed. Then if Steelers win, Buffalo keeps winning. Those are the last 2 left. Yeah, there's no way a 7 seed can host the AFC Championship game because they will be the lowest seed no matter what. So it was fun to talk about before that happened, but that's just what it was. So, But their stuff, the Steelers are up against. See, and one of my favorite shows that I'd like to quote a good bit is I've seen every episode several times of How I Met Your Mother. And of course, you can talk about various different things that you could quote there. And, you know, you could talk about it being legend, wait for it, dairy, how the Steelers won their last 3 games and made it to the postseason. But for this one, this is the mentality of the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is what they need, according to one Barnabas Stinson.
Challenge accepted.
That's what they have to do with all this. There's several things that are coming on here. And that's, well, first of all, you know the Pittsburgh Steelers have never won a playoff game in Buffalo?
Okay.
But that's a trick question. They've actually never played a playoff game in Buffalo.
I was going to say, when did they ever play in Buffalo?
They have. They've never played Buffalo.
Correct.
But I will tell you something. And I'm trying to get people to understand. I'm not saying that, it's stacked up against them. It means the Steelers are going to lose. No, I like things stacked against the Steelers because to me, having things stacked against them, these last 3 games is what's brought out the best in them. Do you think that's a fair statement?
Yeah. How do I want to say this? It's Mike Tomlin is built to coach the us against the world.
Yes.
Like he's built to coach in that style, and that's where it's been the last 3 weeks. And that's where it is going into the playoffs.
Yeah. But and Coach Tomlin said this today in his press conference. He said, "Hey, we've been in playoff mode the last 3 games." He's right. They have been. They lose any of their games, the season's done. Now, the only thing that's different now is if you're cleaning out your locker the next day. Because the last 3 games, other than the very last one, you had to win them. You were going to have to go back out and play for nothing another game or 2 if you didn't come through there. But now it's win it or clean out your locker the next day. That's what they're up against now. And I like that the Steelers have to be up to the challenge. Here's another one. Now, remember, let's see if you remember this. Rich, when did the playoffs expand to 14 teams? Do you remember?
Just a couple of years ago.
That's right. In 2020. Okay. Where fans weren't there to watch it. That's when they expanded to have 7 in each conference in 2020. So this will only be the 4th postseason of having only 1 team get the bye, 7 teams per conference. There's always
what they can now call Super Wild Card Weekend.
That they now call Super Wild Card Weekend. But hey, that doesn't matter. The Pittsburgh Steelers are playing at 1:00 when God intended NFL football games to be played.
Correct.
So, but you realize there has never been a number 7 seed win an NFL playoff game.
Okay.
In the history of the NFL, there has never been a number 7 seed win a playoff game.
You mean kind of like there had never been a 6 seed?
You knew where I was going with that too, didn't you?
Of course, I did. So who better to break that than the team that broke the 6 seed, never win a Super Bowl?
Yes. Yeah. So, I mean, and they'll be the first. They have the chance to be the first one. Because you're like, oh, well, don't the Packers have a chance to do that? Yeah, but they play after the Steelers. Steelers have a chance to be the first one. Go be the first 7 seed to win a playoff game. Then, wouldn't that be a neat little trivia piece? Who was the first 6 seed and the first 7 seed to ever win a Super Bowl? If the answer to both questions was the Pittsburgh Steelers. Bottom line is, this is fun. This is bonus football for Steelers fans.
Okay.
Because we didn't think we were getting it a month ago.
I got another question to ask you about, this bonus football. Okay. And I will eventually go into why I have to ask you this question. So the question I have for you, Dave, is it real? Is the curse of the terrible towel real?
It seems to be. Man, I wish Buffalo would disrespect it. You know what I mean? But it doesn't mean that the Steelers are the ones that necessarily enforce it. It just comes back.
It comes back to the Steelers.
Yeah. I mean, the Steelers weren't the ones that got the victory. The Steelers were just the one that got the playoff berth.
I asked that of the person who works for me that grew up in Jacksonville and
yes, because I played golf with him before, right?
Occupied my seats during the Steelers Jacksonville game this year. He tried to tell me it's a bunch of malarkey.
Said, tell me.
And I said,
I could give you example after example.
And I did. And I did give him example after example and said, and now look at this. And we then, and how fun then for me to be able to turn. Actually, I told him, I said, Drew, I cut you a break. I waited and just said something, at work on Monday morning. I considered texting him right as Jacksonville was losing.
Yes.
My wife told me I needed to have a little more class than that.
Yes. Yeah. Let him.
I was wondering where my wife ever considered that. I mean, we have been married for 25 years. Yeah. She should know me better.
Yeah.
But I refrained, saved it for Monday. He said, nope, not real, not even close, blah, blah, blah. Gave all these excuses. And I said, look, bud, I said, it just seemed ironic that not only were the Jacksonville Jaguars losing their final game to then put the Pittsburgh Steelers into the playoffs, but they were losing said game to a team that was coached by former Steeler Mike Vrabel.
Yeah.
I mean, even Mike Vrabel would tell you.
Yeah.
You don't disrespect the talent.
But there's plenty around the NFL that know better. I'm pretty sure it was Peyton Manning who was asked to sign a terrible towel and would not do it. Said, I would not disrespect your towel in that way to put my name on it when I'm not a member of the Pittsburgh Steelers. I can't remember for sure it was Peyton Manning. I think that's who it was, but I know it was a high-profile NFL player. I got to bring up something real quick. Yep. Christopher 11 says Steelers are playing with house money. Okay, yes, they are. And Christopher 11, I don't know if you heard this or not before. I owe you an apology from the post-game show because we had a troll in there that we kept trying to take care of, and the system was glitching as we were doing stuff, and it accidentally, when I brought up their comment to put them in timeout, it brought up your comment and put you in timeout. You did nothing wrong. I apologize. I'm glad to see that you're back. So that was 100% my fault, and I'm owning it right now. So just thought the next time I saw you at a show, I had to make sure that I said that. I put an apology in the live chat on the Q&A. I think I even mentioned it on our little extra show. No, maybe it wasn't there. I mentioned it somewhere. I can't remember, but felt really, really bad about that. So, sorry about that.
Sorry, the trolls have been bad of late.
Yeah. Well, and everything.
You know what it is? It's all these teams that were already eliminated from the playoffs. They had to cut. They have to come. Try to troll elsewhere. I guess I don't know.
Yeah. Steelers.
Yeah, Dave, friendly. Dave with the
no. Well, because the thing is we gave the person timeout, and they came right back doing the same thing. So I went to give them a timeout again, and it didn't register. So I clicked on their thing, and it did a timeout, and it brought up, it said, Christopher 11 is timeout. I'm like, I didn't click on Christopher 11. It shifted up the comment one spot because it was gone, but it didn't show on my screen it was gone. So, but Christopher forgave me, so that's good. So
crazy.
Yeah, it happens. So, I mean, he should have been fine after 5. I even went in, spent the time talking to Jeff, making sure something didn't happen where it was more of a ban or anything to make sure we could get that changed just in case. So I've been thinking about you, Christopher 11. So, Rich, any more? I mean, we haven't talked a lot about the game because the game was just kind of survive the mess. Survive the mess.
Yeah, survive the mess. Limit the mistakes, because both teams had the mistakes. Both teams were taking the right approach during that game in terms of dealing with the weather and trying to limit the mistakes. Did you find it interesting that the first play of the fourth quarter, when Mason Rudolph has the wind at his back, is the completions to Deontay for the touchdown?
I actually tweeted that. I'm like, the first play with the wind was back, boom, because it really did affect things, the wind. But I don't know. I was listening to Coach KT Smith. It was on, here we go, the Steelers Show. That's on our audio platform at Steel Curtain Network, wherever you get podcasts. If you're one that's just here with YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter, you're missing a bunch of our shows. But it was him, Brian Anthony Davis, who says he's 2% of that show. All he does is set up Kevin to talk about things. But Kevin was saying on that play that he had the first down open. That was I think he said the curl route to Allen Robinson. Deontay Johnson was more about running off that defender. And Rudolph saw what he needed to see in order to make that happen and put that in there. And honestly, I think if they were going the other direction, he makes the throw to Robinson.
Probably.
Which would have been the smart throw.
Yeah.
And that's something Coach Tom talked about, making good decisions,
I will say one thing with that game and the weather. Because I knew it was also very windy, I felt much more comfortable with Rudolph throwing the football than anybody else on the Steelers roster. Or Pickett. Why? Because he's got the big arm.
It's stronger.
Correct.
He can pierce through the wind.
He can drive the ball through the wind better.
Yes. Yeah. I couldn't believe, I'm sorry, I thought one of his more impressive plays was when he had the guy hanging on his arm. Now, granted, he was only throwing it maybe 4 yards to Jaylen Warren from where he was standing. But the fact that he was able to throw that ball and it still looked like an NFL pass, even for that short a distance, with a guy hanging with an athletic freak hanging on his arm the way he was, that was impressive in my eyes.
You know what the first thought that ran through my head when I saw that? Well,
he's the only QB strong enough to do that.
2 words ran through my head.
Okay.
Ben Roethlisberger.
Yeah, that's the kind. Yeah, you're right.
That was a Ben Roethlisberger type of play and throw.
And I'll say this: Mason Rudolph is not Ben Roethlisberger.
No, but that was Ben Roethlisberger-esque.
But if you look,
how do you like that word?
Yeah, that's Roethlisberger-esque. Yep, that's a good one. But if you look at like all the other quarterbacks you could compare somebody to, the comparison's not crazy to say that would be more that Rudolph would be more in that style than he would be somewhere else. That's the whole reason why I said the reason the Steelers could have drafted Lamar Jackson instead took Terrell Edmonds and then took Mason Rudolph in the beginning of the third round because they had that extra draft pick, and even traded up 2 spots to get him, was if you're going to be drafting a backup quarterback to Ben Roethlisberger, you need one that's more in the style of Ben Roethlisberger, that you don't have a whole new offense for them. That's why the Steelers didn't take Lamar Jackson when they had the opportunity there, because that didn't match what they were doing at that time. So that's part of the reason Mason Rudolph was brought in, was because he had some of the same features that could have allowed him to do some of the things that they asked Ben Roethlisberger to do. So
Correct. So if Ben Roethlisberger went down, you did not have to totally revamp your offense.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And that's smart of what you're doing for a backup quarterback. And honestly, you could make the argument that Kenny Pickett and Mitch Trubisky are two that are similar in style more than Mason Rudolph is to those guys.
Yeah. I do want to quick, before we get off the quarterback and switch gears here, also bring up, because I know you guys brought it up in the post game show, and I was keeping tabs on it pretty much the whole game, and it was amazing to me that Mason Rudolph ended the game at 18 of 20 passing.
Yeah.
His completion percentage was amazing in
those conditions. And you're like, well, it was a lot to the running backs. Yeah, it was. But even in those conditions, those aren't the kind of passes those passes often get dropped and are a little bit off and things of that nature.
Yeah, it was, both teams were throwing the same kind of passes. The Steelers were completing them at a high percentage. The Ravens weren't doing awful, but they weren't completing them at that kind of percentage.
Yeah.
So just was quite impressed with that. But honestly, the reason he's able to go 18 for 20 is because Najee was a beast.
Yes. Najee was a beast. So. Jaylen Warren struggled to secure the ball. He was not as much of a factor. But that's the thing about having a good two-headed monster for your running attack. If one of them is having a rough day, you aren't screwed because you have the other. That's just like if Najee is having a rough day and Jaylen Warren is not. We've seen that as well.
Yes, we have.
So therefore, and that's why there were times where in the fourth quarter the Steelers were leaning on Jaylen Warren more because they should have, just based on that day. And that's the good thing about having that. And neither one of them is worn down. Coach Tomlin was asked today about Najee Harris, and he said that, him, this late in the season doing what he was doing and that kind of stuff. And Coach Tomlin's like, he's a big back. Then he was asked about, has Jaylen Warren helped out? He's like, Najee's used to having a crowded backfield. Jaylen Warren's helped out because Najee Harris hasn't had to run the ball 30 times a game. Part of the reason a bruising back can take advantage of a defense that's worn down over the length of the season is because the running back hasn't been worn down over the length of the season because he had someone else to help him along the way. It's been a really good thing to have.
Hey, somebody asked to put something in here, and I'm going to bring it up just because I think. All right, Mark Lancaster says, I don't think a cornerback on our team is registered as sack, and I think that is incorrect.
I can tell you shortly. Why's that?
I can tell, because I believe Chandler Sullivan, right, 34, recorded one on a blitz off the slot.
You're saying a cornerback. Correct. Well, I can tell you that safety Elijah Riley has a sack. I can tell you that. Yeah, that's all. I know. You know what? That Chandon Sullivan, I think I'm remembering what you're talking about. Was that one of those that got negated by a penalty?
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
You can remember the play, but then you're like, it doesn't
You're right.
count.
You're right.
Yeah. So, yeah. So
Darn.
Elijah
He should have
Riley
had one.
a sack. Yeah, he should have had one. So yeah, I just clicked over to see if that was the case, but yeah, that's how you know it was a rough year for Cam, missing a bunch of games. He only had 2 sacks this year.
I know.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you know what? Why don't we just take that many from him on Saturday? You save him up for the postseason there.
There you go.
That's all right. So all right, Rich, let's go ahead, take a quick break, come back, hit the super chat, and get on with stuff. So if you're with us here, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, we're not going anywhere. If you're with us on the audio, we'll be right back after these messages. All right, Steelers fans, here we go. We are talking about, usually we talk a lot about last week's game. We've talked about it some. We're really talking about looking ahead and the whole experience of making the postseason. It's an experience. It wasn't it this weekend.
Playoffs.
Yeah, that's right. Talking about, just taking in those games. I mean, I have to admit, I was watching Saturday night, rooting for the tie. Because that game on Saturday night,
yeah, so was I.
Were in. Until the Texans missed the extra point towards the end. I'm like, missing the extra point, so now it's either going to be.
You say towards the end, that was actually earlier than you'd have thought, and it was like,
it was in the fourth quarter.
Was it? I don't know.
Yeah,
I was just like, well, so much for the tie. So yeah. I was like, yep, there goes the tie. Well, we'll deal with it.
Because I'm like, the reason I knew it was late because there wasn't enough time left in the game that I thought they would have 2 possessions to go, 2 field goals. That's why I said late in the game for all that. All right, time to bring this up from Steel Dog 88. $2 into the tip jar. He said the Steelers going to play Herbig over to TJ's side. I think you're going to see more of a 3-man rotation. I think you're going to see Alex Highsmith playing as many snaps as he possibly can, unless the situation dictates it and he's just absolutely gassed. And then you're going to see the other 2. And I would not be surprised to see Alex Highsmith on either side of the formation. I wouldn't be surprised. I'm not saying they definitely will, but it just wouldn't shock me. What do you think, Rich?
It's going to be all 3 guys, and I think you're going to see all 3 guys play both sides.
Yeah.
Although I would say, though, Alex Highsmith will probably take 90% of his snaps on his regular side.
Yeah,
which
probably.
would be the offensive.
But I wouldn't be shocked. Yeah.
Yeah.
The offensive left side, defensive right side. Yes.
Correct.
So I'll ask you the question that Coach Tomlin was asked today. Are the Steelers more equipped to have less of a drop-off with the loss of TJ Watt this year than they have been in years past since he's been in Pittsburgh?
Oh, they're way ahead where they were last year when he was gone. This might be the best set of 4 that the Steelers outside linebackers that the Steelers have had in quite a while.
Mm-hmm.
Will there be a drop off? Of course, there's going to be a drop off. We're talking all world TJ Watt, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be a drop. Well, what you lose from that player is going to be insurmountable for the team. Yeah, no, not insurmountable.
Yeah.
So, I wish we had TJ, of course.
Yeah.
Did I like the little Photoshop picture of JJ in TJ's uniform? Did you see that?
Oh, that was funny. Yeah. Sorry, I don't know if I'm breaking up or if you're breaking up a little bit right now. But that's why I wasn't trying to jump in and talk over top of you. just to make sure that it wasn't me.
That's okay. Breaking up is hard to do.
Breaking up is hard to do, I say that to my wife all the time. So yeah, it is you that's breaking up a little bit, they said. So yeah, that was hilarious.
It is.
And I'm like, is JJ hinting at something? Should someone be making a phone call? I thought that was funny. But no, other than maybe TJ's rookie year when they, until the very end of the season, had, James Harrison, because remember, TJ was supposed to be the backup to Harrison, just played better than he did. That I feel that they, and it's not that they haven't had the plan in place in the past. It's just worked out where these ended up being the best players doing the best things this time when it comes to outside linebacker and when it is there to replace, fill in more than anything for TJ Watt too. Man, it would be really, really cool if the Steelers could get a win and he could find a way to make it back the next week. But either way, man, the Steelers aren't supposed to be in the playoff. If you were to tell me that the Steelers made the playoffs and Mason Rudolph is getting the start, I would be like, oh my goodness, how bad did they limp in? And I hate to even ask who the other quarterbacks are on the roster at this point. But that's not what it was. That's not what it was. Now, you all know I don't care. I don't care if it's Mason Rudolph. I don't care if it's Kenny Pickett. I don't want it to be Mitch Trubisky based on his body of work. I just want the Steelers quarterback to play well. I'm not caring about being right about Pickett, about being right about Rudolph. I just want whoever's playing to be the best quarterback they can be so the Pittsburgh Steelers can win. But I want to say something about Kenny Pickett. And you have to think about this. Just imagine, don't think about it. Oh, well, he's only had one game with multiple touchdown passes in his career. Oh, he's never had a QBR over whatever Rudolph's had as his lowest one of these last three. Things of that nature. I get that. Those are correct. I'm not denying them. But imagine being Kenny Pickett. Imagine having the Steelers 7-4, home against a 2-win team, early in the game, tie game, driving them down the field on the cusp of the goal line, and you get injured. At 7-4, you get injured. The Steelers blow the next play, blow the next drive, and lose that game. And then lose another one after that while you're out injured. Imagine being 7-4, your team managing to go 500 from that point, and you're back to healthy, but yet the reins aren't given back to you. That's got to be hard to swallow. Now, I'm not saying they should be turned over to Pickett. They shouldn't be, by the way it played out. But that's got to be tough. Because it's not like the Steelers weren't winning games with Kenny Pickett.
Yeah.
So it's got to be tough. But at the same time, there's just something different with this team the last three games, and you've got to keep it up. You've just got to do it. So I mean, for Kenny, I know all the reports and other stuff of how he was, true, untrue, whatever. It's got to be a tough pill to swallow. So I just want to say that I feel for him, but the Steelers are doing the right thing. Anything you want to say about that, Rich, if I got you? Hello? All right. I think I lost you. I don't know. I've been talking for a while because I thought you were working on your connection. I don't know if you're completely frozen or what's going on, but I will continue to roll on until we get Big Bro speaking back in whenever he's good to go. Are you there? Yeah,
We go.
You're frozen.
My
Yeah.
So if you can hear me, my internet connection is
yeah. So all right, well
fine,
you might need to you might need to drop out and
me
just to reload it.
My connection is unstable or missing.
Yeah. So all right. So I'm going to go ahead and drop you out, Rich. And if you can get back up there, just come on in whenever you can. Going to bring up I got a super chat here from Leo Canales. I don't know. I probably screwed that up. $4.99 in the tip jar says, what do you feel Pickens' role will be this weekend? Pickens' role is to go out there and be the guy, be the stud, be the man. That's what he needs to be. And if he is, that's great. If he's not, it's because they had made such a concerted effort to take him out of the game that it's making things better for everything else. That's what happened this past week. Baltimore said, we are going to focus so much on George Pickens, that whenever you're going to have to do something else, anything else to win. So what the Steelers did? They ran the ball. If they're going to bracket George Pickens like they did this past weekend, then the Steelers should have a better opportunity to run the ball. They should have other things open in the passing game. So I think Pickens' role this weekend will be to be who he can be. And if the other team focuses so much on him that he's taken out of it, then guess what? You've got to take advantage everywhere else. And I think George Pickens had the right attitude. We might have Big Bro coming back. We'll see. That Pickens had such a good attitude this past week about it, that it was really about the win and everything else. Rich, you look a little bit better. We got you back? Oh, come on. You can't do that right now, or else I'm going to
All right.
You can't do that.
Yeah, I'm back.
So in case you weren't here, we're going to super chat back up. What do you feel Pickens' role
I saw that super chat, yes.
Okay.
Pickens, my thought is that, it will be as it usually is.
Sorry, I just had to bring this up. Steelers Freak says Big Bro has the Mitch to wide receivers connection.
Yeah. I'm trying to figure out what's going on here because
it's StreamYard.
Still struggling with me. Yeah.
No, you're okay. I got your audio, so you're good. Yeah.
Okay. Pickens' role is going to be to do what he's supposed to do and run routes and try to catch footballs.
Yeah.
Right.
And honestly, if it's not going to be crazy raining, I think he gets a deep shot. If nothing else.
I would say yes.
I don't see there's any way that he doesn't get targeted. I don't see a repeat of that last week, because to me it was how Baltimore was playing and the weather conditions is what went together to have him be 0 targets. But man, he knew the Steelers needed to win the game. And honestly, George Pickens did a lot for the Pittsburgh Steelers offense to win that game. Him being on the field is what allowed so much of that other stuff to happen. So sometimes you don't have the stats, and that's all right. So, all right. Got another super chat here. Oh, there. Rich borrowed Tony's computer. You couldn't. Tony got mad and slammed it and broke it and all kinds of stuff. Yeah. And one other thing that said, this was driving nuts. How Dan Orlovsky wouldn't shut up about Pickens. I'm like, you know what? Oh my
gosh.
Yeah. It was ridiculous. I'm like, you're talking about trying to make him happy when the Steelers have to win this game. You can't go down there and say, let's see if you can get them a touchdown. They had to have that field goal. My goodness.
Look, the only thing I think about when I see or hear of Dan Orlovsky is I forgot where I was on the field and ran out of the back of the end zone.
And then still tried to keep going and throw it like I hadn't done anything wrong.
Yes.
That's the thing. He was just so clueless that it happened. We got to bring this up. This is great. Great super chat. Occam's Ox,
Yep.
$4.99 of the tip jar. Thank you. Says, I'm going. It's only a 3.5-hour drive from Pittsburgh to Buffalo. Tickets aren't too pricey. Steeler Nation needs to show up and wave those little yellow towels. Because that was the other thing. Was it Trevor Lawrence that said the little yellow towels?
That was Trevor Lawrence that called them the little yellow towels. Yes,
but it wasn't even him that was the disrespect. It was the defensive guy that went and grabbed one and was waving it during the stadium. That was more. That was more of it. So, all right, Rich, let's really get to focus on this. I haven't looked and see what the prices are for tickets. I was looking at Baltimore last weekend just because it was close to me. $12 got you in the stadium last Saturday. $12 got you in the stadium into the upper deck. And I think I saw $55 lower deck seats.
55 or 56 in lower deck. Yeah.
Yeah. So, have you ever been to Buffalo?
To the city of Buffalo? Yes, I have.
Okay.
Remember, I used to live in New York.
Oh, yes. Well, and honestly, if you go to Niagara Falls, you basically have to drive through Buffalo. If you're coming up from the anywhere south.
From the south, when we lived in Binghamton, we didn't have to. But yes, I've been to Buffalo.
Yeah. Because the way I went when I went to Niagara Falls this past summer to go through Buffalo, you actually that stadium is nowhere close to the city.
No, it's not.
It's like they say Orchard Park. It is. It's out there. It's like in the middle of nowhere. And then it's the stadium. So yeah. So hey, go Steelers fans. Get to that game. Do it. All right, Rich. I don't give my prediction here because I give it on the preview, but I'm going to tell you this. Spoiler alert. Well, I'll let you give your prediction first, and then I'm going to tell you some things that I feel about this game. I'm so excited because when it comes to the playoffs, anything can happen. And the bigger the underdog, the more they have to play for. I love that the Steelers are like 10-point underdogs right now. I love that so many people are on the Bills bandwagon because when you watch them play, there are ways you can see that team can lose. So I'm so excited to get an extra Steelers game this year. We didn't get one last year. And I know there'll be plenty of people that if things don't go right for the Steelers that are upset and talk about how many years they've gone without a playoff win. And you are right. You are exactly right. I'll tell you this. This is the post-Ben Roethlisberger era. That is what we are in. I mean, you could say it's the Kenny Pickett. You could say it's the Mason. It's the post-Ben Roethlisberger era. And in year one, the Steelers almost made the playoffs. Year two, they did. Now, would it be an added bonus if they could get a win in the playoffs? Absolutely. But they got to keep stepping forward. To me, it's not even necessarily about next week if we're talking about a Steelers victory. That's a huge thing because we want to be talking about another game coming up. But as much as anything, I want to talk about how the Steelers played and how they fought and how they were there and how they deserve to be in the dance. That's what I hope our conversation is, win or lose, next week. Anything you want to say before you give us your prediction?
Just that I'm with you, but you also have to remember you can't improve on what a playoff record's been if you're not in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So get to the playoffs first. Then we can worry about trying to improve the Steelers' playoff record of late. If you don't make it, you can't improve it.
Exactly. There are 18
So
teams right
anybody
now that can't win a playoff game.
Correct. That didn't even get the chance to win a playoff game. And of the 14 teams that are in the playoffs, 13 of them will lose a game.
Yeah.
Remember that.
And
13 of them
at least
will
six,
lose a game.
And at least six, and
Six will
and
lose
as
their
many as
first.
8 will not even win one.
Correct.
At least 6, and
So-
could be as many as 8, meaning if the 1 seeds get knocked off their first game, aren't going to win one.
Correct.
So you're an elusive company for winning a playoff game, and the Pittsburgh Steelers have an opportunity to do it. And we're going to see what they can do. 1 o'clock in Buffalo. Rich, tell me what you think for that game.
Well, first of all, I think it's at 1 o'clock in Buffalo when God intended football to be played.
That's right.
I expect this to be what I consider to be real I'll call it slobber knocker kind of playoff football. Okay. The fact that you favored Buffalo by 10 right now, take the points.
Yeah.
Because Buffalo doesn't win this game by 10. Okay. Do I this one where I would love to pick the Steelers, not going to pick the Steelers, but I expect this to be a very good game. I actually am going to play it out at a 23-21 Buffalo. Probably on a late field goal. You know, maybe last drive of the game, kicking a field goal as time expires or something like that.
Hey.
That's the kind of game I see playing out in the playoffs.
Well, and now remember, don't put your scores out there yet, everyone. I'll wait till I bring it into the live chat. Just thought I'd remind people.
And you know, right now I'm going to say that it would be 23-21 Buffalo. Honestly, you could flip a coin and say, you know, it could just as likely be 23-21 Pittsburgh on that on a last second field goal too. You know, but that's how I could see this game playing out as one of those who's got the ball last and can maneuver into position to kick a game-winning field goal.
Yeah. And to put in perspective, Mr. Woodside did a great job putting this. The over-under is 36. It's a 10-point spread. So Vegas basically has the score as 23-13 is what they have. So here's what I think is interesting. I think I know why it's a big spread. I think it's a big spread. Hold on, people. Don't put your score in there yet. I already said it. I'll bring them all up whenever I put in there. But I'm not quite ready, and here's why. I think it's a big spread because they know the Steelers win close games. If Buffalo's going to win this one, I think it's going to take 7 points or more in a win. And I don't know that the Buffalo Bills are 7 points better because, I mean, with the stat of how many games, like the last 7 games, the Steelers have led in the fourth quarter. They're like 7-0, things like that. That if they have a fourth quarter lead, they don't give it up. If it's a close game, I mean, the Steelers only lost one. Well, technically, I guess New England was then also a close game. But when games were close, the Steelers found a way to pull them out. That's been their MO. So to me, I think the reason it's a big spread is because if Buffalo's going to win, they're going to have to win significantly. And I don't know that they can. So my thing is I'm ready to see this Steelers team fight because I know they can. That we've seen what they can do the last 3 weeks, and it gives me hope. So I'm going to give a little bit of a spoiler. The Pittsburgh Steelers are in the playoffs. I'm so excited that we get to talk about this. I refuse to pick against them. So you have to tune in Thursday to find out exactly what I have. All right, so now I have it out there for people to put their scores in. Those of you that jumped the gun is probably new to us because we got a good bit here in the live chat today. So I will bring up everyone's scores, and
by the way,
we'll talk. What's up?
But by the way, I have to keep going with where I've been and not picking the Steelers.
I was going to bring that up. You haven't picked the Steelers to win the last 3 games. So I was very glad that you did that. I've mixed it up, so I feel better about this. All right.
Actually, the last 4 games, and they did lose the game to the Colts.
Yeah.
But after the Steelers lost to the Patriots, I have not picked them to win since.
That's
So
because
I'm
I
still
hadn't
not
figured
picking
out
them
that I
to
had to wear my Star Wars PJ pants with my Cam Hayward jersey. I didn't get that figured out until the Bengals. So it's been doing that ever since. All right, we are wow. Our time just skipped ahead on me. That like I think my clock was frozen. No wonder we're running so late. Here we go. So let's get the Steel Dog 88 says 23-20 Steelers. He's got Boz winning. He's got that overtime field goal. Okay. Afton's got 17-14 Buffalo. I think Afton's doing the same thing as you, Rich. They got there. Kevin Brokenborough got Steelers winning 24-0. I thought that was nothing. Sorry. 24-20 over the Bills. That sounds, I'd take 24-0. 24-20 over the Bills. If you don't say a team, we assume that it's Steelers. Okay. Christopher 11 has 31-11 with keeping the momentum going. Steelers Pittsburgh has 21-20 Steelers with the Boz with a 21 point. Is that an extra point to win it? I don't know. Maybe there's a safety in there or something. Thomas Israel has 34-28 Steelers. Kathy Ford has Steelers 24-17. Rob Thitoff has 33-20 Steelers and has some other details in there. Gary has 24-17 Buffalo. Outside Steeler fan has 20. Wait, where'd it go? There it is. Okay. 20-14. Thinks they're going to have a good day rushing. Brian Blackstock has 27-25 Steelers with good quarterback play still coming. Steelers Reaper, 24-21 Steelers. Joe Mannix, 12-10 Steelers. Going low score. I wouldn't be shocked if it's low scoring. I wouldn't be shocked if it's high scoring. I'm going to point right now, nothing would really surprise me. I wouldn't, honestly, I could see the Steelers winning in a blowout. I could see the Steelers losing in a blowout. I could see either way. I mean, honestly, it's the playoffs. Wonky things can happen. And that's so it really could go anyway. Kind of like you had that feeling on Saturday at any moment that someone that a team that was doing, like the Steelers were doing well, they're up by 7. You're like, the weather's so weird. You could get just a freak play that changes everything. So we'll see how much that is a factor on Sunday. Nate Van Slyke has 23-17 Steelers. Gavin Anthony has 21-16 Bills. John Walter has 23-20 Steelers. Hank Lee has 27-20 Steelers. Dara Wilkerson has 21-24 Steelers. Joseph Donovan has 27-23 Steelers. Mark Tobin has 24-10 Steelers. CM Punk, don't know if that's the wrestler or just an admirer of 27-24 Steelers, saying with a game winner from the Boz. M. Marcus 39 has 24-21 Steelers. Mark Lancaster 24-10 Pittsburgh. He thinks that they're going to get a lot of takeaways. And Afton says she knows my Christmas tree is still up. Yeah, my Christmas tree is still up. It'll probably be up till February. We have a little new tradition with that it might be up a little bit longer. Mr. Woodside has Steelers 20-19. James Tresvant has 27-13 Steelers. Let's see. I think I already got Hankley. Here we go. Occam's Ox going to be there. 24-20 Steelers. Okay. Leo, that had the super chat earlier that I couldn't say the last name. Canales is what I'm going to go with. 27-24 Steelers. Yeah, I think you got it right. David Poe has 27-20 Bills. Thomas Riley, it's not a tie. It's a postseason. Can't be. 23-17 Steelers. I was waiting for him to put a tie in there. Like, come on, Thomas. It doesn't happen. Sherry Richards has 23-19 and on to Baltimore. That's right. The Steelers know who they play if they win. They know. That's because they'd be the lowest seed. They play the highest seed. Let's see. Did I get John Davis 08 before? I don't know that I did. 10-3 Steelers. Hank Lee, you keep giving me different scores. Stop it. Ken Brown has 28 or Steelers win over the 12 Buffaloes. who's that? The Rob Odie? The Robity. I don't know. Says Steelers 27-17. Let's see. Felicia. Hey, Felicia.
Hey, Felicia.
She's got 0-3 Steelers. I'll take it. And it's funny because, just to bring it up, Nathan Vance says, can't bring myself to pick against the Steelers. I'm positive for this. You know what? Be positive. The Steelers are in the postseason. Enjoy it. Enjoy it, Steelers fans. Is TJ Watt out? Yes, he's out. That's just unfortunate. The Steelers' best player will not be playing in this game. But you know what? The Steelers can still win. Enjoy this moment. Playoff games are so you. I mean, enjoy them. Enjoy it. Even if you're a team, I mean, I don't know if you listen to Rich. I think you do. Listen to the Fans First Football Show with Jeff Hartman and Stats Guerrero.
I do when I can. I've missed the last couple.
Well, 2 weeks ago it wasn't Stats. This past week it was Stats. But like what Stats said, they lost in the NFC Championship game last year with Brock Purdy getting injured because, he's a 49ers guy. He's like, just give me the playoffs. It's like the playoffs are so – everything was getting back to the playoffs. It's such a small sample of what of a year and everything that's going on. When we are talking – where'd it go? I lost it. No, we're not talking about
practice.
No, that's all we're talking about. Where'd it go?
Nope, not talking about that.
No, where'd it go, Rich? Did you delete it on me?
What?
Oh, there it is. There it is.
No.
I found it. There it is. Finally, I got it. Okay. It's a rare thing, even for teams that are there a lot of the time. It's just such a rare time of the year, and the fact that your team is there and can participate, enjoy it. Whew. And we're going to continue to bring you everything, podcasts, everything at steelcurtainnetwork.com. Rich, tomorrow we'll have your why can't I think of what's called? Worthless 2 cents article. We'll have that out tomorrow.
Worthless 2 cents.
Yep. And just that we know, this is the Steelers. They've called it.
Challenge accepted.
That's right. They're going to be up to the challenge. They're going to go out there. They're going to show us all what they're made of. Rich, what do you have to say to close out here tonight?
Since we're running late on time, again, I'm going to keep it short and sweet. 1:00 Sunday, when God intended football to be played. Me, my couch, the knee-jerk reaction article, and Steelers football. Can't wait.
Can't wait.